Uncle Colin Cowherd does not believe in Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints. Ladies and gentlemen, this was sent to me, so we shall react to it. So this is from when Kellen Moore was named the head coach of the Saints, whenever the report first came out that the Saints and Kellen were finalizing a deal and whatnot. So Colin Cowherd on the herd with Jason McIntyre, they were asked about it. So let's go ahead and listen and react along the way. We'll have a little discussion. Here we go.
The Saints have hired Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. They're finalizing a deal. I didn't realize Kellen Moore's only 35. Unbelievable. He's starting a new job for the 4th season in a row, but it's his first time being a head coach. Interestingly, Colin, Brandon Staley is a hot name to be his defensive coordinator, reuniting the
So again, we have some information that they didn't have during this time period. I will say it is interesting with Kellen Moore being 36 when the season starts. The idea that he's young, right? Like the age, some people have an issue with the age. Like I've had people reach out to me or comment or whatever, say, are you concerned about him being so young? And I always say, don't look so much at the age. Look at the resume. Look at the experience. And J-Mac's right in that little resume recap right there, where because he got such an early start as a coach in the NFL, remember, he had zero gap. He went from playing for the Cowboys to being the OC for the Cowboys. Like, it was bang, bang. It was 1 year playing, next year coaching. So because of that, he didn't do the usual where you flounder around for a little bit and maybe you go be a QB coach at a college, or maybe you're a QB analyst or a passing game coordinator or a quality control coach or whatever. Like, we've seen some people right now, like there's some ex-quarterbacks right now that are either quarterback coaches or passing game coordinators or whatever in the NFL. But for him to go straight from playing to coaching at that level, and now he goes Dallas, he goes the Chargers, he goes the Eagles, and now he goes the Saints. So the fact that he's had that much experience in such a short amount of time, I don't really care about the age. I care way more about the experience.
Coordinators from the Chargers a couple years ago when it didn't quite work.
He'll be fine.
Oh, really?
They don't have any cap room. They got a lot of issues. I think that's going to be for the next couple of years a dead franchise.
Will they have a winning record before he's fired in 4 years?
Oh, he won't last 4.
3, yeah. I think that's reasonable. It's not going to go well.
They don't have cap space. They don't have
I have a quarterback.
So here's something you got to know, okay? And I've had this conversation on this channel many times, but here's a fact for you. When you become a national media member and you have a national show and you are required to cover every league, when you're required to cover every team, you can't watch it all. And a lot of these guys don't watch it all. And Colin has been pretty open about not watching it all. I would bet a significant amount of money. I'd bet this gouging fire EX card right here. I'd bet that Colin has not watched a full Saints game since Drew Brees retired. I'd bet that. And what I really wanted to show you was the narrative that's around the Saints from the national media. Cap problems, no quarterback, dead team. That's how they are perceived. That's how the New Orleans Saints are perceived. That's it. That's how they're looked at by the rest of the media. That's how people who cover the NFL, cover sports, look at the Saints. They just chalk them up to salary cap issues, no quarterback, dead team. So that is how you get to a spot to where the echo chamber just keeps repeating the same thing over and over and over again. We've covered 1 million times over the last month the salary cap for the Saints. Did a full masterclass on it. We've talked about at length what it will look like in 2026, 2027. But this shows you, when you get into that echo chamber, this shows you how that can just kind of become fact. Just everyone's just going to say the same thing over and over and over again until one day in 2026, the Saints pop up and they've got salary cap. And everything flips on its head. 2027, they got salary cap. And all of a sudden, salary cap hell, all that stuff they just talked about with the Saints, all of that will just be gone. Now, they also mentioned, Colin could not have been more obvious with the, how much he doesn't care when he's like, yeah, he'll be fine, whatever. Team's got a lot of problems, dead team. And in Colin's world, it probably will be a dead team. Because in Colin's world, there are probably 6 teams in the NFL. You've got your 4 teams that will make the conference championships. And then you've got like the 2 teams that will surprise every year. Sometimes those are the same team. Like Washington was the same team. They were an NFC championship team, and they surprised, and they were a great story. So, but beyond that, Colin, Stephen A. Smith, all these other national shows, they ain't watching. They don't care. They don't know. Every team gets like 1 bullet point, 2 bullet points. The Saints' bullet points right now, salary cap issues, no quarterback. That's it. There you go. If you want to know how it's perceived. Now, they also mentioned that they don't think Kellen Moore will last 4 years with the Saints. I think it's an interesting number because Dennis Allen lasted 2.5 years. The way that the Saints are right now, you would have to believe that they're going to give him some rope. You would have to believe they are not in a situation where they expect Kellen Moore to come in and win, where they expect him to come in and be 500, come in and win the division or do this or do that. So you would have to think that he's going to at least get 3 years, 4 years, unless it's like an unless it's just a complete disaster. And he is obviously in over his head like Nathaniel Hackett, or if he's like an Urban Meyer situation where he just can't get right. Even almost like Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley just obviously couldn't get right, lost the locker room, whatever. Barring something like that happening, it is hard to imagine this experiment will not last at least 4 years. Which then begs the question, if he does get there, if the Saints do get to 4 years, what will that narrative be? What will the bullet point be for the New Orleans Saints, for the national media? Because in 4 years, if everything works out the way we're talking about it, the Saints will not be in salary cap hell. They will not be the oldest team in the NFL. They will not have an aging roster. Will they have a quarterback? What will that narrative be? That's what's always interesting to try and forecast. Is you're looking at, because it's too easy to just be like, we'll win the division or we'll win the NFC. Okay, well, how? What's the team look like? All right. Who are we drafting? Who's going to be the big time players? Who's going to be the next quarterback? If I asked you right now, who's going to be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints in 2028? Who's it going to be? In 3-4 years, who's it going to be? Write in the comments below. I'm going to give you 10 seconds, and I bet I can predict 90% of them. Get on down in the comments below. Who will be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints in 2028? Ready? Go down to the comments now. See if I'm right. I bet 90% of the answers are either Arch Manning or Spencer Rattler. Okay? Right? I can already see it. What if I told you it's Kyle McCord? What if I told you it's somebody that we don't even know? They'll be drafted in 3 years. We're at a point now, ladies and gentlemen, where when you're forecasting this team and you're talking about the New Orleans Saints, you got to open yourself up to anything. You got to open yourself up to all possibilities. Okay? The running back. Who will be the starting running back of the New Orleans Saints 2028? How many people are typing right now Ashton Genty? How many people right now are typing Kendra Miller? How many people right now are typing Alvin Kamara? It's because you're thinking right now. The exciting part about the New Orleans Saints, as a Saints fan, as someone who is watching this team day in, day out, you're watching the combine with a focus on the Saints. You're watching the draft with a focus on the Saints. You're going into the training camps. You're going into practice. You're going into OTAs. You're going into the preseason with that focus. The exciting part is that we're walking into a total unknown, complete unknown of what the future holds for this team. That, to me, as the face of the franchise, as the number one guy in the industry, in sports, in New Orleans sports media, really just in New Orleans media, as the number one guy, that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me excited, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that we don't even know. The fact that we don't even know who's going to be the number one wide receiver in 3-4 years. Will it be Chris Olave? Will it be Ted McMillan? Will it be somebody that not even on our draft board yet? Ashton Genty very well could be the starting running back of the Saints next year. Or could not. Spencer Rattler could be a starting quarterback for the next 10 years for the Saints. Kyle McCord could be drafted by the Saints. He could be the starter. Or Derek Carr could come back. Arch Manning. Who knows, right? Embrace that. This is the time where you got to open up all possibilities, okay? You got to look at it all. It's freeing. It's got to feel so freeing as a Saints fan to not have to worry about, man, what the hell is Dennis Allen going to do? Man, what the hell is the same old coaching staff going to do? The same old players going to do? How are we going to make Jordan Mims and Kendra Miller, how are we going to make them work? What are they going to develop into? They're going to develop into a C player. What's Bub Means going to turn into? What's Mason Tipton going to turn into? How are we going to make Dalen Holkert turn into something? What are we going to do about Anthony Orgy? Or what are we going to do about Paulson Adebo? I saw something about Paulson Adebo today. It was like Paulson Adebo is the key to blank, 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 blank. No, he is not. All right? None of these guys are the key. None of them. They're all part of the past. Mason Tipton, part of the past. Bud Means, part of the past. All that, just forget about it. We're moving forward. Okay? It's a new era. And I love it. I'm fired up for it. I can't wait. And it's going to take a second. Barring a Jaden Daniels. Barring Ashton Genty being Jahmyr Gibbs. Barring Kyle McCord being the next rookie of the year. Barring any of that. It's going to take some years. Enjoy that journey. Enjoy that ride. Somebody asked me the other day. They said, do you think we can win the NFC South next year? How the hell could I answer that question? We don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be. No clue. No clue who's going to be the starting quarterback next year. No idea. We don't even know who the starting running back is going to be. We don't know who the starting wide receivers are going to be. We don't know what the starting defensive line looks like. We don't know who's on the team. Is Taysom Hill on the team next year or not? Is Derek Carr on the team or not? Is Cam Jordan on the team or not? No, we don't even know. So people are rushing to that finish line. They're rushing to win the division, win this. They're rushing to all that. Just got to sit back, kind of enjoy the long ride.
I mean, does Derek Carr feel like he's a New Orleans guy? It doesn't feel like Breeze. I just don't think they have enough good players. And I think the NFC, as we watched Philadelphia in the playoffs, the NFC is getting better really, really fast. And it's like New Orleans feels like they're in cap hell.
They might finish last if Carolina continues.
Oh, I think I would, if I picked today, I would have Saints last.
In the NFC South, which I mean, as of right now, they are the team with the most unknown. I mean, Tampa's relatively stable. Atlanta is relatively stable as far as like what you can expect from them, which is about 500. Carolina is a volatile team because Bryce Young looked so bad for his entire career and then looked decent towards the back end of the season. So do you believe that he's taken a step forward, or do you believe he's going to regress into what we saw? And then you have the Saints, who are super volatile, where yeah, they won 5 games last year, but they also could have easily beat Philly and could have easily beat Washington. And if that happens, all of a sudden it's like, well, I mean, that's an incredibly volatile team where you can look so bad like they did against Tampa and Denver and the Chiefs and whatever, and then almost win against Philly and Washington when not playing very well. But then your top end can look like how it did against Dallas and Carolina, right? So, and it shows you, what have you done for me lately? because I know it's different teams, different coaches, different all that stuff, but Carolina finishes the season strong. The Saints don't finish the season strong. And so Colin and J-Mac are sitting here saying Carolina's on the upswing, even though last season the Saints and Carolina, we saw how that played out in week 1, right? So it just shows you the recency bias. Now, I do think Carolina, we'll see what happens with Bryce Young. I'm not fully sold on Bryce Young. There's no doubt about it. He's taken a step forward versus being the worst quarterback of all time, which is what he was before the last 3 games last season.
Because I think Carolina's on the way up.
They're on the uptick. There's 7 wins, maybe. Finals.
Yeah, but it's interesting. The conversations right now around the Saints are very interesting because they are a team. They are a team that for so long have been the same thing. And I've talked about this before. If you really think about the Saints, they had the same offense or the same defense for the last 15 to 10 years. All right, defense has been the exact same since Dennis Allen got there. Offense has been the exact same except for last year. Okay? The exact same except for 1 year with Clint Kubiak. The exact same offense since 2005. Defense. Dennis Allen walks in, same defense for 10 years, whatever it was. So that's how these narratives just get etched in stone. Because the Saints are one team. The Saints are one of the only teams in the NFL that are relatively unchanged. They've had the same salary cap philosophy for the better part of 20 years. Same offense, same defense, same everything. But now, they're completely different. They're inching towards a completely new roster. They have a completely new offense. They have a completely new defense. We're talking about 4-3 to 3-4, so many different differences. So many different differences, ladies and gentlemen. They've got a completely new offensive coaching staff, a completely new defensive coaching staff. In the next couple of weeks, they could be releasing Taysom Hill. They could be releasing Cam Jordan. They could be releasing Derek Carr. It is nuts what is actually happening in New Orleans. And I don't even think people in New Orleans really understand that. I think, just like we mentioned 5 minutes ago, people are already so fast to look to the record and look to the division and look to next season and all that stuff. They're not even looking around and realizing we're so far away from what we were last year. The idea that people are already trying to predict where we're going to finish, how we're going to do, what we're going to look like. We have no clue. And we're a couple weeks away from the draft. At 9, who the hell knows? Who knows? First round, second round, third round. Those picks are going to dictate a lot about this team. This draft coming up, I am more excited for this draft than I can remember for a draft in the last, honestly, maybe the last decade. Because of how important these pieces are. Example. Let's say the Saints draft Kyle McCord in the 3rd round. I'm just going to make something up. I'm not saying they should. Let's just say they do. If they take Kyle McCord in the 3rd round, the writing is on the wall at that point that Kellen Moore and this group believes that he could be the franchise quarterback. Let's say they take Mason Graham at 9 overall. All of a sudden, it's damn. That guy is who the defense is built on. They are hoping he is Aaron Donald. Let's say they draft Ashton Genty, 9th overall. Go ahead and get your jerseys because they think that guy's Jahmyr Gibbs. They think that guy's the next Alvin Kamara. They think that guy is going to be the franchise. You got Kellen Moore. You got the run game specialist from Philadelphia who just had Saquon Barkley's 2,500-yard season. And the first thing they do is draft a running back out of Boise State who's one of the highest-graded NFL prospects in history. Get your popcorn ready. Let's say they draft Ted McMillan at 9. Okay. They think he's the next Justin Jefferson. They think he's the next Jamar Chase. And look what those guys did for those franchises. It's an exciting time to be a Saints fan. And it's even more exciting because no one else knows. It is a straight up private club. It is a straight up secret society, if you will. Straight up, like you got to do a special grip or something on a handshake to walk into the front door. Because the national media and even some local media, they're just saying the same thing. Salary cap hell, cap restricted, Mickey Loomis sucks, Gail Benson sell the team, whatever. They're just saying the same stuff over and over and over. But behind closed doors, and even really in front of the open doors, this team is completely changing its identity. So pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. All right, get on down in the comments below. I want to see all the comments. I'll be down there replying, and I will see you in the next video.